Recording. All right, we're recording now. All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Andreas Diaz, or Andreas, the Pop Culture Guy Channel Presents. This is the podcast for the OA series part 2, which that means this is the last part of the OA. This is season 2 we're talking about. If you haven't heard us talk about season 1, it's in the channel. Check that. So here today, I'm here with my good friend Becca again. Becca.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
And so today we're gonna discuss season 2 of the OA. Yeah. So let's start with broadly in general. What do you think about this season, Becca, of the OA? And is it your favorite season of the OA?
I would say I slightly prefer the first season, but I think that the second season has wider appeal because of the fact that it's a lot more action. It's a little bit faster paced compared to the first season. So, I think all together, both seasons are great. They work together as part of the same story. So I enjoy both seasons for different reasons.
Oh wow, that's cool. So I guess the opposite spectrum that I like season 2 more than season 1. I think you hit the right mark about season 2. It's faster paced. It's a lot more action, like a lot more stuff going on, and like instead of the slow and more like I can compare season 1 as a character driven season, and this season was more of like a character plot season.
More of like a plot driven.
Yeah, plot driven. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Which is good. But like same time you didn't lose stuff that you like about the OA, like the character thematic stuff like that. So you still have some character driven stuff. So and also in general, for me, what I like about season 2, it expands the universe more. Very quickly, it expand the ideas that we talked about in season 1, and then you see it fulfilled, and like, oh my god, I see what they're doing. Especially me, because I didn't like the first season. I didn't get the concept, and then season 2, I was like, oh wow, they're doing dimensions, and I was like, but with the rewatch this year, I was like, they were talking about it. It was just first season. It was setting up like this universe ways of dimensioning, portal dimension to another dimension. And it's incredible this season. I love the new characters. Let's not forget there's very cool new characters we have here. And the old cast is great still. I guess the big thing, how do you like, what do you think this season is about? Like, you talked about last season about how like empathy, like how you describe the seasons, like overall event, like the themes of this season. What do you think?
I feel like this season has a lot to do with kind of identity. If that, a lot of kind of, there's a lot of the characters are kind of struggling with reclaiming a sense of identity after experiencing trauma. So I think that's like a big theme of this season. And I would say the kind of, I guess, mystery thriller sort of aspect is a lot more central as well. Which isn't exactly a theme. It's more of, I guess, the mechanism. But
it's, for me, like, it's when you bring that up. For me, that's just the thing to get the themes rolling. Like, of course, obviously, the new character that obviously is involved with that plot, folks, is Karim Washington. Um, like his
Mm-hmm.
character has a very unique theme, unique
Mm-hmm.
like
He really
trouble.
like drives the plot in this season, I think.
Yeah. And well, and obviously you mentioned the like mystery, like thriller, like Sandra
Mm-hmm.
aspect. That's part of him, which because honestly the really very unique ideas of this universe. Like the medium and the engineer, and the mysterious woman that we see how like she is talking to Hep and OA. She has so many names. OA, Perry, Nina, so much name. Uh, and like she's like showing this new concept of like there's other method ways to travel dimensions, and like, oh wow, and all this packed into this mysterious thriller of this other version of Nina that's with her boyfriend Pierre Rusnik, that's what he's called, and of like these people dreaming of this, they're like instead of near death, you see probably the dreams is just another way of them traveling into the dimensions. If you notice that,
Yep.
like especially because it connects to Cream, how he's having visions, he's having just like OA had in her other dimension of pre-connected dreams of the event will probably happen to them. You know, obviously hers was her getting shot so that she can travel to the dimension. Where I don't know what about Cream's dream, a little flash he has a couple times, but we'll discuss that. Or BB-8's like kind of dream of seeing was it Steve and his new haircut saying he needs help, you know?
Mm-hmm. And I think while we're like talking about dreams, it's also kind of interesting to talk about Homer and his dreams, how it connects to the setting in the
Yes.
season as well is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Um, and I know you mentioned this in our last podcast, how they kind of set that up in the first season, and that was something that you noticed on like the rewatch.
Yes. And then, especially watching season two, the OA mentions again when she's having the session with this version Homer and that dimension, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, which I noticed they did this yet again with the OA, and obviously we're not gonna get that plot line solved, unfortunately. Um, yeah, I guess let's see, let's go into like the best aspect or thing in this season of the OA. What do you like about season two that they brought up? What's the best thing for you, Becca, for season two?
I guess two kind of different things. I mean, I really liked the mystery of the game.
Yeah,
That whole aspect was very cool. And then I also really liked the aspects of the OA kind of having to reintegrate Nina
oh
as
yes.
a part of herself. And that's kind of what I was kind of getting at in terms of like identity being a central feature of this season, both
Mm-hmm.
for the OA and also for the boys and BBA as well, kind of trying to like find themselves after OA is kind of gone from their group.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and but also also with identity is also philosophy as well, like the philosophy of
mm-hmm.
what they believe in is something
That's true.
that
That is a big. You're right.
that all characters are Danny. Like you think about with the group, they're like especially with Alfonso, like him Danny, like the
Mm-hmm.
stories and the events that OA talked about them with them in season one.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got Cream, who like when he meets Nina, of course, when she's trying to tell him about the dimensions, he doesn't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't believe these weird aspects of this investigation. And so like that's getting him question more about his identity, but like overall his belief. And
Mm-hmm.
then I think also Hep, I think, is another one that he's damning his belief as well. Unlike
Mm-hmm.
like him and with the OA is like it's very interesting. And same thing with Homer. Like Homer is lost, but like if you look at how this version of Homer, the one that they mentioned there, not our Homer, but like that Homer in that dimension is struggling to believe what he's really doing as like a psychology or someone,
Yeah.
trying to, it, it, it it's all like connected overall with the themes,
Yeah.
but also belief. I feel like, and I like what you brought up. It's very true. And what was the second best thing? Or that was it.
Oh, I had also mentioned kind of like the game and that
Oh
whole mystery aspect is
yeah,
very cool. Kind of more fun, I guess, in a way.
yeah. It was very cool. They were very clever. I I think that was I like how it was very sci-fi slash fantasy like. It didn't
Mhm.
stray away what you like about the whole A.
Yeah.
I mean, also you mentioned but the Fears commentary, the podcast, they set up these seasons. They planned this out. So
Mhm.
like with season two, like we watching, it's like incredible how they just set up so much of these puzzle and games, and you don't feel confused. Like it's right there for you. Like they did it like such a like a, right. They execute the games and the mystery so well that you don't get lost too much. So
It's true. And you could easily, I mean, there's so many elements. It's not a simple plot, so
yeah,
that was a lot of work in order to set it up in a way that was easy to follow kind of once you got to that point.
yeah, and then trying to connect it to the universe they built, as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I guess for me, like the best thing is pretty much the character progression on certain characters that we didn't develop far enough, or like we did set up and then they went from their logical conclusion. I really like the I like Cream's arc this season. I think I really like him as a new addition to the cast. I think him and the OA had like chemistry, which was really great, and I think he really brings, I think, the overall the themes and like bring a new aspect of a new perspective from the dimension we're in. Like I think it was good that we start from his point of view to see this new dimension, how it's different from our other dimension. That's another
Mm-hmm.
thing that's important with Cream, and so he pretty much gives you this new view of this universe that we're at now, with before the OA arrives there, and and honestly, having that the mystery thriller helps to get into this new dimension and like these maybe cool like parallel universe, like this. There was President Biden as the president instead of Barack Obama, which is kind of funny now with him running the president.
Yeah.
It was funny. It was funny to notice that. And it was cool things like the technology, and then Treasure Island was very cool. Like very interesting. And then also like the different um versions of Nina, Hep, and Homer and the rest of the crew in this series was very interesting. And Michelle, of course, Buck. So it was very cool to see that
Mm-hmm.
unfold. And then second best thing is I think just the world building. It's very impressive. Um, like first season, I mean first season was a first starter, but I think season two, if you didn't like first season, I think season two will help pay off the things they were trying to set up and what they're talking about. here you see it fulfilled, with the world building they're building up with the dimensions, and then setting up new things, and what the proposal season they had, and it's very incredible, like this week we're watching season 2 again, just seeing there's other methods to do the movements. That's like very interesting, and like
Yeah.
it just shows you that there's like you're not constrained with this one method that you saw from first season. It's like, no, you could do it other ways, and like I was like, wow. Yeah, and then I like it, lose their weirdness as well, with the
Yeah,
octopus. And
I think the weirdness probably actually, if anything, they turned it up a
yes.
little.
And folks, when we say weirdness, talking octopus is not that far fetched. I mean, we're in another dimension. I can believe that more than their universe, their other dimension. But yeah, I guess we can get into the worst thing. Like, worst there, like, nitpicks. Worst thing you thought about season 2 that they could improve, or you just weren't into that idea. Like, what was that for you, Becca?
Um, I think there's um I would say there were a couple of things. Mainly, I think the atmosphere compared to, like, I really love just the atmosphere of season 1, and I do think a little bit of that was lost in season 2. I still think I agree overall that there were a lot of payoffs for things that were set up in season 1, and it was more action driven. It was a little more exciting, but I do miss some of the atmosphere that was kind of a large part of what made what kind of left me with such a strong impression after watching the first season. And then there was one part, if I had to name a part, that was a little bit it was the part with it when they went to see the medium, and the TV, it was a little bit, compared to how like perfectly thought out and set up everything is, that the TV urging like only CBA to be the one to cross over was like a little in your face compared to like the subtlety of the rest of the show. It wasn't a deal breaker for me or anything like that, but if I had to like nitpick, that would be probably one thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that, like, I think the way they got to the medium was just so contrived. I didn't really. I think I mentioned this to you when I was texting you when I finally watched season 2. I was like,
first watched it, yeah.
It was like it was like Alfonso was talking. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh yeah, no. You're exactly. I think it was more just the fact that it almost wouldn't bother me if it was another show, but in a show where everything is set up so well and is done with subtlety and nuance, it just kind of stands out as being a little bit, as you said, contrived.
That. Well, and like because I think I think was it what was the town they're in? Westwood or
Crestwood?
That's the town they live in.
Crestwood.
Crestwood, thank you. I was I'm sorry, folks. Crestwood, the Crestwood group. I mean, I like what they do with Crestwood group and the characters they have there. I still like them, but I feel like I'll say, I guess I can get into my like 2 worst things or like nitpicks, and it's not the worst thing about this show. It's just it could have done better, as Becca say. I feel like the Crestwood segment of the group does slow down, like take away the attention of the real main plot you're watching, uh, that you saw from the first two episodes. And then you got this group, which I was happy about, but then they're like they don't focus enough with the the rest. Oh my god, mouth twist
Crestwood,
up with the town's name.
tongue tie.
Yeah, I oh god, what help me, Becca's West
Crestwood.
Crestwood. Thank you. Oh my god. The Crestwood group. Uh, yeah, folks, it's just so many names in this series. It's just too much. The Crestwood group just don't get enough development, and it's like, and there's certain characters that I like, or they didn't get full development, was okay, but like it's like, why we need that. I'll say Steve is definitely the standout still as the best catcher in that group. Buck as well, and
Mm-hmm.
BB-8 still my favorite. And it's just, I just had mixed feelings when Alfonso, and then Jesse, definitely had better development, as we mentioned before. He
Yeah.
didn't get much to do this season. I think he got more to do. Just kind of showing, I think, the trauma and him struggling what he believes in as well. And I think I'll say that when we talk about what I mentioned about beliefs, I think the the identity the the identity theme you mentioned, Becca, is probably in
Mm-hmm.
the OA and Cream storyline, where the belief is more in the Crest group, the Crestwood group more, because you're
Yeah.
seeing more
Yeah.
their beliefs are, you're seeing more of that being there with those people more,
Yeah.
and Jesse is the one that you kind of see the most, and Alfonso as well. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But I agree with you, Noli, that the Mia was contrived, but like I you kind of just want to go back with the main storyline about Michelle and like the OA, where this part is just like frustrating, and then when you get to, was it episode 6? No, episode 4, them traveling, and like I really enjoyed their traveling, but then when they
Mm-hmm.
get to the church, and Alfonso, is gay. I was like, okay, like, and then he finds a guy that's tender, and then he tells him about his aunt, about who is a Mia person. It's like, wow. So yeah, I think that's the weakest part of the season. Is the like, unfortunately, the quest group just feels out of place for the season. And then the second worst thing is just the setup they were trying to do for season 3. Fortunately, it's not going to pay off. Obviously, we have to mention that the show is canceled. Hopefully, it gets revived. Hopefully, one day.
Yeah.
Uh,
Please.
yes, please. Because there's things I didn't notice that were setting up. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like quickly, when the OA was with the octopus, and like the octopus, like, you know, kill her for just 37 minutes, and like she has similar to like Homer had for season, how he went to the hospital that we're in this season. She goes to her
Mm-hmm.
airplane, and he mentioned a brother, which, like,
Mm.
that's like a big like plot point, and you know and like it was very
Yeah.
interesting, and like that can easily be in the third season. And then I noticed something this time around. Besides the brother thing, we noticed that that was going to be their like main set, where the main set where we're going to be was the in like kind of like a Truman Show reality that we're in,
Yeah.
like our actual reality. Which is like towards the end, you see how Homer, Hep, and OA travel into the reality of the actors.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you see Jason Isaacs, and then you see Britt, uh, Merlin.
Merlin.
Yeah, and then of course Steve, the actor, uh, Steve. Brendan Meyer, as well as that they're walking towards the end. Like they set that up 2 times. You saw, and I'm trying to figure out. Oh, um, you hear when the Homer dimension there tells Hep about how did um Scott die in first season and how he was in the the other dimension where he was in his actor's body and like they told him about the third movement that's set up already for the third season and that dimension and then I'm blanking what was the second time they mentioned that other dimension. It was probably BB-8 I think. Um so yeah, that's the misfortune things about I think this season is just the payouts are not going to pay off for next season.
Yeah.
So
I know I've heard discussion of like potentially, I think a comic or something like that would be cool if they aren't able to ride the show.
Yeah, I mean, animation show could be in the stream.
Yeah.
I mean, I hopefully comic. Yeah, like or a
something
movie
would be.
Yeah. I mean, or a television movie for Netflix, but we'll see. Yeah. It's just annoying the cancel. Okay, let's kind of let's kind of like get into best characters. Who's your favorite character? Is it still the OA or what were some of the new characters you like is your favorite?
So, I mean, I still love the OA. I love her development. I love her side, kind of as Nina, and as I said, kind of having to integrate that part of herself and that the mixture of resentment that she experiences for like the life that Nina got to have that she didn't get to have. But ultimately having to kind of accept that as a part of herself in order to move on and become stronger. So I still love her as a character. I think her development in this season is excellent. But I do also love some of the new characters. As you've said a few times, Karim is great. Very, very good character, good addition to the story, and kind of a nice counter to the OA. They balance each other out very nicely because he's very practical and he's naturally a skeptic, where she's like naturally very spiritual. So they kind of complement each other very nicely. And he's a really good character and also great for kind of driving the action in this plot, and his drive to like uncover all the mysteries is really important to what makes this season so exciting.
I agree. I think Karim still the OA still my favorite character. And I will say Karim, the new characters is definitely Karim my favorite character. And I will say my favorite other character is Homer from this dimension. I really like his character here before our Homer comes back. I think it was very cool to I think for me what I like about this season more than the first season, I like that we got more Homer in general. I like how you got both best of both worlds, like everyone like always trying to help find the winter Homer, and then you got this other Homer that's just I say trying to be a good person and trying, but then at the same time hit the original Homer is trying to get back, and it's like it's very interesting to see.
He did a lot more development as his own character rather than just like as being part of the OA's past. So I think that was
this season. yeah, and it was very interesting to see like I guess you can say the doppelgangers of each character you saw.
Mm.
Like like Nia, is similar to Perry, but like she had went from a different direction. She's more the Russian, like she's more like the what if Perry is have more her Russian heritage more in her life than it was in her original dimension. And then you got Homer, who is this other doppelganger that if he did the football, but then something happened, he goes this other direction, which is the industry. And then, and I think with the OA group, I want to learn more about like what happened to Rachel's, like why she couldn't
Mm.
speak. I guess she was mute, maybe, like for her life. And then Renana as well, like how she got into that, like her version got into that Treasure Island hospital. And then, Scott, you kind of see the connection there, like as the mysterious woman said before, your self in that dimension will carry on to the other dimensions she mentioned with the OA during the bar, in the bar
Mm-hmm.
scene. And so Scott, you kind of saw like, okay, I can get how his character be there because he was a drug addict first season he mentioned, and so it makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
I think had interesting development this season as well. What we're talking about characters and their development.
Yeah.
You kind of see more of the, I guess, his continued motivation and just the kind of going back to identity, like the way that he's built his identity and the way that the OA kind of brings into question the beliefs he has about himself, because he's in his mind, and this is what makes him like an interesting villain, is that he thinks he's a hero,
Yeah.
And she refusing to play along with that doesn't work for him. Basically.
I mean,
So
when was it like when the mystery lady, like when you get this mystery lady throwing these like obvious things that she's from another dimension, Hep is going to be overly assessed to find out what's going on, And then the mystery lady show him that there's other methods to travel, and so that piques his interest. And then when they're in the hotel, whatever, they're having having their night together. He's gonna kill her. Try to eject her with something, and of course he showed her this. The new tactic method, having was it mechanical machine. Yeah, this like mechanical machines to do the movement instead of humans, and like it's like why? And then Hep get this other idea. It's like yeah, Hep is like the perfect example of a mad scientist. Over the sense of this one idea they want to prove, but then it just ending up making them the worst person. And it's like Hep just but he just wants that that power that he wants to study, but like it's just endangering so many people. So yeah, his arc is very interesting. What else? I'm trying to figure out. I mean, we got the other main characters. I really like Zendata's character.
Oh yeah, very cool.
Yeah,
I kind of
yeah
the
very
obsession in general, obsession with the game, and her kind of being one of the people to get far in the
yes.
game.
Yeah. Well, and the game is kind of like parallel to Hep as well. Like he's like the game is almost like the dimension thing. Like the game is like
another obsession, kind of.
exactly like
Yeah.
it's because like Hep knows about the game because he's working with Pierre Ruxman, and so you like it's like telling what's Hep doing about dimension and like people and like
Yeah.
you look at Cream, he's doing exactly what I think OA is doing to Hep. So it's Zendaya's character was very interesting. I liked her, and I didn't recognize her the first time around, and I was like, oh, that's Zendaya. So and yeah, it was like interesting about the culture they're representing in this season as well. So and then what else that was interesting? The was it what was the other lady? Um, I'm trying to figure out what other characters that we need to talk about. Uh, oh, um, um, Marlon Rhodes. She's another interesting character. The Curl was it the Dream Factory thing. She was like a top executive before she left after describing what happened to Michelle, and so she went into hiding. She was a very interesting character. I really liked her, and then it was that I guess she killed herself. Um, um, you like was it like episode 7? Yeah, episode 7. When we go back with the other dimension, Cream goes to visit her yet again, but he discovers something. I guess someone broke in and killed her. Maybe I don't know. Like that was tough.
Oh yeah, to know what they were trying to get at, but she was gone.
Yeah. She was another instant character, and then going to Crestwood group. Another character that was a great addition was Angie. I think she was great.
Yeah, she had a much bigger part this season, and yeah, she was a good. She helped to balance out the group a little bit this season.
Yeah, it was great to have another female character there, besides BB-8. And, Angie was really great addition. I like, her. Like I like because like it shows Steve as a character. Like he has grown from last season. I feel like, and you see that, and like you see her as another like character. You see believing what she saw, what they did, and like she's joined in with this journey, and so it was very interesting.
Yeah.
True. So, yeah. I guess we're getting to like worst character of the season. Any worst character you think was in this season? What you didn't like?
I can agree that I know you've kind of said this before, but like French Alfonso, like he was like a little bit. I think he had a character development arc that, if it was done a little bit more carefully, could have been good. But the way that it was done just felt a little bit sloppy.
Yeah.
Compared to the rest of the show.
Yeah. I thought, going back to this season, watching it, I thought it can. Okay, maybe I was a little harsh on this character, but no, it was still a problem. I was like, oh, it's like why? And it's like it was so annoying. Like, was it especially in episode 4? He was talking to this was the last appearance we was going to see with Scott Wilson, Abel, Perry's stepfather, and like it was an instant conversation, and I just did not like that he was still thinking she lied to them, and it's like I just didn't like that. So, just
he's kind of the one to lose faith in a sense. The way that they kind of revealed his arc in terms of his sexuality. Again, I think that like that development could have been good, but the way that it was done was just rushed.
Yeah.
Uh, because it was like they squeezed it in like while they were staying at that church. He just kind of decided to leave
and
for a day.
have a one night stand.
It didn't really make sense in the context of what the other things that were going on in that moment.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think they could have done that a little bit better.
Yeah, yeah, his name is weird too. Like, it was confusing, like, you calling him French, and I was like, French, Alfonso. I was like, who you're talking? Like, Angie mentioned the
Sorry.
beaches. Like, no, like, I know what you were talking about. I was like, initially, like, when they were saying French, I was like, who's French? And then for the first time, and then this time around, I was like, oh, that's his name. It's his name is here. Alfonso French Sosa.
Yeah.
It's because, like, his mom is from Paris, and I didn't catch that from the first time I watched the show. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real bizarre. What do you think about? Oh, sorry, you were gonna say something?
No, you go ahead.
What do you think about Jess? You think that this was a major improvement of last season?
I'm sorry, what do you mean?
Oh,
exactly?
Jesse. Sorry, Jesse.
Oh, Jesse. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yes, that was definitely. Sorry. Definitely. Yeah. I think they developed this character a lot more this season, and you got to see more of his internal conflict, because he was like a little bit neglected in the first season, as we discussed, and yeah, his development was really sad aspect of this season, and really heartbreaking, but
yeah.
It was good, I thought.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah. I like. Yeah.
You like?
I like Jesse. I think he had a better, like, arc this season. He was better handled this season, where, I think from Jesse, from Steve, from, like, Steve, Angie, Buck, BB-8, and Jesse were handled this season, where Alfonso wasn't handled well this season, where it was like the flip flop, that where Alfonso from Steve were handled better, and then Jesse was just, like, very low tier because he didn't connect too well with the OA.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was
kind
really
of just went along.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No. So sorry. Go ahead.
No, you just kind of went along with Steve mostly the first season. It felt like he kind of just was more of like Steve's like sidekick almost too, and then in the season he really had his own plot.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like this season I think you can see. I think Jesse sees Steve as, like, an older brother. Like, if you think about it,
Yeah.
like they hang around a lot. They're, like, kind of like best bros. I mean, they, you see first thing they hang out, what they do, the drug thing, but also the video things, and, like, and this is then you see how not only Steve was proactive, but, like, Jesse was trying to be proactive. Like, without Jesse, B8 will never connect the Treasure Island and those stuff. Like, trying to figure out their destiny they have in this season. What was Rachel trying to tell them, and what was their mission as a group. And so Jesse was that, like, component that helped push that forward. So I feel like Jesse was another character that was trying to be proactive, but, like, his personal stuff just got into too much of him. And so, and as Angie say in episode 6, they were completely annoying him. Like, he was having the most trouble, and, like, they just didn't recognize that. They were so busy doing this mission, and, like, and, like, and especially crush Steve, because Steve does feel like that's his, another extended brother, our family
Mhm.
that he has,
Yeah.
and especially you see the scene where he, they were in the bus, running from, you know, uh, the Amber Alert, and like, he sits down next to, Jesse, and then, he sleeps on his lap, and it was a touching scene. You see their like
Mm.
brother relationship really
Mhm.
unfolded in this
Yeah.
season. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I feel like I Jesse felt more like a character, and like it was a personal uh,
Yeah.
downfall for Steve, because and he's a group leader. I feel like it shows how he's like the group of leader this
Yeah.
season. So
It's true.
you know,
Um,
um,
he had the strongest kind of belief, as you were talking about earlier, and so
yeah,
that's kind of what keeps everyone together.
yes, yeah. I guess like now we're talking other characters. Like let's get into Buck. Uh, I like Buck. Great character.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about
Good.
that character's arc?
Yeah, it's good. I think Buck is like a consistently good character both seasons, um,
Yeah.
and his uh, development this season is good. Um, him, like, in addition to Steve kind of being the other one keep who has that really strong belief and is trying to keep that alive in times
Yes.
of questioning. Um, so I think that was good, consistent character development. Maybe not as drastic as some of the other characters, but
Mhm. Yeah.
um,
No. Um. Yeah. I think Buck fits to Steve. Like she's still the believer of the OA, but most importantly, like I would say it's kind of weird. Like I love this season. Like I didn't realize this until when first time I watched it, when the OA recognized Michelle was Buck. I was like, oh yeah, like Buck, like Buck is the center of the universe.
mm-hmm,
Like you talk
yeah,
about the identity. You look at how Michelle is. Like, I don't want to, talk in, like, Buck as a transgender, but like it's interesting to see Michelle as this female character who's like, is already confident of her identity, and you see her, you know, not having too much, but like, you have a grandma who loves her and like trying to get her back. Where you look at how Buck's universe, she is, like, or he, thank you. Ugh, like, he is struggling his identity, and
mm-hmm,
her family is very, like, I mean, her family life is struggling too, that, like, the father from last season, you see, he was struggling about, his identity, and like, and then it comes back this season where, look at the mom, she's struggling her belief of what her child, well, what his child is went through, and thinking it was a cult and it's brainwashed, and it's like, really, lady. And it's like, but then you see how Buck is really strong, and still heads up just like Steve. No, what
mm-hmm,
I believe is still true, and like it just shows how Buck is a really strong character overall.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then you get like BB-8. Let's go into her, and like she has a very interesting character, like that continue, like she and Buck are the most consistent character. Their development from
Yeah,
first season has been fully developed for this season, and it makes sense.
mm-hmm,
Um,
yeah. And I think that BBA has a really unique challenge this season, kind of as being the one adult in the group and
yeah,
taking on a disproportionate level of risk. Um, I mean, essentially being seen as a kidnapper,
yeah.
um,
Oh
and
my god.
kind of having to question, like, being in a situation where she's very much at risk and doing something that is extremely taboo and
Yeah.
kind of like, so in terms of belief as well, like that's something that she really has to struggle with this season.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, and try to be like, yeah, like, but also like her, like, it was very interesting rewatching this about how BB-8 was like the important person. Like, I guess we're gonna get into like, what do you think about what they're trying to say about BB-8? Like, was she important to do the fifth movement? Like, it was kind of like that, like how Scott was from last season, like how he
Yeah.
found the third movement. Like, because it was you mentioned how like that whole meeting was like contrived, or like it was like a little sloppy. I
Yeah.
didn't understand what was BB-8's role here, like as a the dimension traveler, but if you saw the piece, she was having those connected dreams, just like Perry had last season.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think there's like a lot of implications about kind of her connection to the other dimensions. And I think that what was implied in the like only where they said it was like only safe for BBA, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, that was because everyone else was in that pool.
oh yes.
So it was like she was the only one whose sort of like soul wasn't dead, trapped in that world. So like for anyone else who tried to like travel into the next dimension would be at risk, because they were kind of already, like, their bodies in that dimension were already trapped.
That's true. Yeah, because like obviously we mentioned Michelle. That's Buck's doppelganger in that dimension.
Yep, in that world, Michelle was in a coma.
Right, and then you got obviously Jesse, who dies in that dimension, but you also ironically see him again dead in the Hep's secret closet of people that had the flowers coming out of their ears.
Yep. And that's one thing that it was like something I just noticed when I watched it for the first time that I remember was really like cool detail. There was a scene, and I'm not even sure which episode it was, but there's a scene where Karim is looking through like the computer through a file of like missing people.
Yeah.
And if you look closely at it, you can see Steve.
Yeah, and Alfonso.
So like, that there was so they were missing. They set that up very carefully that they had been missing in that dimension. So.
I know what you're talking about. That was last night. I was watching it. It was episode 7 when we went back to that dimension. No worries.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed as well. Like when he was going down the missing people, honestly, he was going to Michelle. I didn't see Steve, but I know it's Alfonso because he was wearing the glasses. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, you were right. They carefully did that, and they look different. Yeah, that's true because, and honestly, that connects to the conversation from the mystery lady. I got her name is Elado. That's her name. Elodie.
Oh, Elodie.
Elodie, thank you, Elodie.
Yeah.
The new character that is the mysterious dimension traveler that's giving tips to Hep and OA. I mean, I'm happy she's giving tips for the OA because she's a good person. I don't get why she's doing that for Hep. I'm like, oh my god. I was like, oh my god, lady, really? Don't give him any ideas.
Yeah.
But I see Shays before. She says she's the balance of something. Yeah. And she mentioned before to the OA during the bar scene that when you're connected to the dimensions. When you're like a dimension traveler, you carry on to each dimension you travel. You know, like how her doppelganger was similar to her but different. You know, and you saw that with each character, and that's it. You have to pay attention how they they explain their way of dimension hopping, and you see how BB-8 was not yet there because she wasn't, you know, um, it hasn't yet done you know, the movement yet, or something like that. It's just strange. Um, I guess let's talk about that new character from this season, Aaliyah. That's her name, right? I'm saying that right?
Already?
Yeah. What do you think about her as a character this season?
She was very interesting. I think she was more. She didn't really get like a lot of, I don't think, like development as a character. She almost was more of like, she was kind of there to provide more information into the mystery and kind of act like setting, kind of planting seeds for both Hap and the OA, about like their destinies and about the nature of interdimensional travel. She's a very interesting character. I'd be interested to see if she were to get more of her own story in another season.
Yeah.
But I think she definitely brought an interesting dynamic in.
Yeah. Yeah, and she brought new ideas that
Mm-hmm.
that you couldn't do to do the internal dimension you were saying. She was kind of like Cartoon for first season. She was more
Yeah.
like that. How like Cartoon was helping the OA to set her path, but where I think Lily, this new character was more of like, okay, this is what you are for your destiny, or something like that. Like, this is what you need to do for your destiny, and here's ways you can do it. Like explain what were the ways you can to do the internal dimension, but also how to handle this new body as well. Because you mentioned how at like Prairie hasn't integrated Nia's full body, and you see how the small bits we saw, like how she couldn't remember, like she doesn't know Nia's life, but when she pops up, like she know the codes of the locket of her recording herself, the Nia thing with Nia's recording stuff sessions, and like it was very interesting concept. Who else? I guess speaking of Nia, like you have any opinion about Pia Rusnik, that character?
Yeah, he was also brought an interesting element. I think, like, kind of, I feel like he's definitely a sort of commentary on a particular type of person, in terms of like his power, in power that kind of comes from like inventing technology and in a certain way. And so that was interesting, and the research that he was doing about like the dreams and the power that he has from having kind of created this game, and his relationship with Nina is interesting as well. So I think that was another
interesting character. He's like a parallel to Hep a lot of ways. How ironic that they're working together. But like also like I mean, if you look at him, like you think he could be the brother for Perry, like
that'd be interesting.
like because I mean, because like the belief, the belief glisms of that plane, and then that person that tried to turn before cutting out, like kind of looks him with the blonde hair, but maybe that's far-fetched. Rusnik was very interesting, and like it was kind of like Cream's own Hep in a way, like how OA has her Hep, where Ruxpin was kind of like Cream's, head. Because both men are like similar, and like and the way Ruxpin treats Nina is almost similar to what Hep was doing to the OA, in both dimensions.
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to go. What's there? Oh, I so I guess another conversation I want to talk about was Cream. Let's get into that character, the new character. I mean, we mentioned four folks. He's a great character. He's just a great character. There was a things that I didn't know. I didn't pay attention to first time around.
Yeah.
The second time I didn't. I realized, very interesting stuff, like Cream as a character, like how he doesn't believe in, bringing in kids in this world, and like, especially when hearing that story about his brother and like meeting this lady and then relationship, trying to get Perry to remember the codes for that recording session room that Nia has stored. Like when they leave for that club, or what's the word, the sexes or something like that.
Desergy?
Yeah, the Cersei. But that club, Stacey. When they were driving there, Perry asked her, "Was that you?" And he replied, "Yes." And so it was very interesting character revelation how he is. Again, continuing about beliefs, stuff like that. Also shows like especially the character Mo, one of Kareem's friends, that really homes that idea of belief and like his belief, especially because she's having the baby, and like when she was giving Kareem the dress of Miss Rhodes' location that she's hiding, she told honestly, when you have baby, you sometimes people will let you touch the baby because they kick. He did not do that. He just pulled himself back, and was very interesting, but shows what we learn about this character is very true. This is before he meets Nina, before he meets the OA. You saw set that up, actually.
Yeah.
So, and I think to go on to that topic I was talking about. Then the giant octopus.
Yeah.
I think
like
it's
gotta at least comment on that briefly.
yes, because this one is called Acel, the Old Knight. That's the name of the octopus. Azazel, that's the name. Oh my god, I love that name. That's a cool name. So, yeah, I guess we'll go. Well, let's get into the octopus. What do you think about the octopus? Acel.
Yeah, I mean it's weird. It certainly gets your attention. It was very like that was kind of the peak of the surrealist aspect of this season, I think.
Yeah.
And it kind of, I think that Old Night kind of like plays that same role in terms of identity, circling back to that theme, and like refute when the OA, like she's like hesitant to like say her name, and he kind of like
who she is.
Yeah. So it's a very interesting scene.
Yeah.
I feel like I've said that so many times. That's very interesting, but I mean that's true.
I mean, it's a good way to like get into people into the show. It's like, well, that's a giant octopus, that actually talks and like it's funny. But I mean, I'm trying to figure out, like, again, it's interesting how this show uses animals. Like, you think about the idea of like, like we have a spirit animal, like you heard about that. Like, it's interesting how the series handles like the idea of animals being motifs, or like gateways to your abilities. Like
conscious sort of like
yeah. Like if you think about first season, how the OA got her blindness got her sight back was by eating this or eating the bird, and then coming back from the year of disappearance yet again got back her spirit thing. And then like that's how Prairie is from that dimension, right? And you look at Nina's, like she has the octopus, and that's her kind of like spirit animal a little bit. And like and like how and like he too gives her another like like another, how you say it, sends her into this another dimension that she like gonna probably be in the next season, just like how we saw with Homer for first season, how that was setting up season 2. So that was very cool. And this is where I was talking, this is where he tells about the brother, and then that was something I didn't know about, like you mentioned before, Becca, from last podcast, about how they set up things for the specific seasons. This one I was like, okay, this is a point, because that's going to be relevant for next season. And that's why I was asking about Rustin. I was like, could be the brother, but but it looks different. But it's interesting they brought that up this season.
Definitely.
But I mean, it also kind of makes sense, because the way her father was in the original dimension and this dimension, how just like like the mom did die, but like, was she like, you didn't get too much detail about her mom. So well,
other than that, she looks very similar to Nina from that one portrait.
Yes, that's true. It's true. I hate really. I mean, there was other weird things about this show. I mean, besides the octopus.
The tree. We could talk about the tree. That's another.
Yes.
I love that scene, but it is also very odd. Another very surreal scene.
Yeah. The tree was interesting. I think the tree. Yeah, like this show does a good job of handling like nature, like a nature versus human subject, and like the show's very much that, because last season it was like water, it was the thing that they were, the near death experience, and then this season it was pretty much nature and like construct, that, especially the house that's another thing I would say. The house was like, was the basement yet again from last season, but much more metaphorically, almost like supernatural thing, to get into the puzzle, I like the tree. It was very interesting. I guess that's the all night character, whatever, but we'll see. Speaking of the house, let's touch on the house. That was another aspect that became, honestly, the house was the game for those kids that Rusnik was trying to figure out. Obviously, when we get to like favorite episodes, obviously, the house and the game was just trying to get Michelle back, I guess. Which I try to figure out. What do you think? What do you think about all of that and the history of the house? Well, it was very interesting. Especially
the way that they kind of built it specifically for this purpose. And the mystery around it, and it being kind of a center point to kind of interdimension. And then the way that they kind of made it into like a prop at the end was very cool.
Yes, it was very cool. It's cool to go back to our reality. And Michelle was the actress. So again, showing you the next step of the third possible series.
I
mean, I'll say it like this season was a lot more ambitious with their ideas, and then third
Yep.
season could probably go into more like a meta commentary,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and
Yeah.
I think that could be a cool way, you know, because you mentioned how like this season was a mystery thriller,
Thriller. Yeah.
and then this next season it could have been like a meta commentary like
True.
season, you know, a thriller mixed with that, you know, it could have been in strange direction. I mean, oh, oh, the the potential.
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh, I really want to see that third season. Oh, so
Me too.
badly. Yeah.
Me
And
too.
yeah, you know, and see that the actors playing themselves and that third season, Polly, you know.
And so very cool to see how
Yeah,
they did that.
yeah. I guess let's just kind of get into like any favorite episodes for this part two.
I think that's it. I have to take a quick look.
Sure. I
Um,
yeah.
hmm,
I like I like these the child chapter names this
yeah,
season.
I think maybe it might have been episode 7.
Ah, really? Okay.
Um, I thought the aspects of um, where the OA kind of like reintegrates Nina,
Mm,
that is a good scene. And really an interesting way to again think about like identity and as it relates to trauma and kind of having to they do, I mean, obviously they're looking at it from a sci-fi lens, but
right.
from a psychological standpoint it's a, a very good metaphor in a sense, having to revisit the point at which the traumatic event caused an identity to kind of break off and having to like revisit that in order to become whole.
Mhm.
So that was a really good point in her character development, I think. So that was a scene that I really liked from that episode.
Yes. Well, and I like how it goes to full circle of her going to the treasure island
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like you know like you look at Karim's arc, it goes full circle to Ruxnick as the main you know subject of his investigation.
Yep.
How you know like I'm trying, yeah, and then you know like you got you know Homer you know being that as well going back to Treasure Island the thing that he you know set out to be you know like it all just it's one of those I agree with chapter 7 Nia as a voter is a great per opening episode for entering season finale of chapter 8 the overview. um yeah that's great things about chapter 7. um I will say what I want to say I think my favorite has to be chapter 5, the medium and the engineer. I think is one of the best Korea episodes I think this season has done.
That was where the tree was that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's probably my second favorite. So I would also have to agree with
Yeah,
that.
yeah. It's a great episode. Very like one of the best. Just like the puzzle, like game of it is really great,
Mm-hmm.
and you know discovering this house. You know, like you know Homer listening to the tips of Rocksmith with Hep. You know, Dr. Percy, of course, his alter ego, and like learning the history about the house was very cool, and you know, and it was like almost like a you know like what do you call those like Houghton House kind of thing.
Like a paranormal kind of
Yeah,
investigation.
you know, like Night Terrors, like one of those Universal like Fright Nights kind of like attractions. It was kind of like that, but like in such a really supernatural, like surreal, like you know atmosphere, which was incredible.
Yeah.
And
So
and you mentioned the tree, like it was interesting how you saw both characters diverge their destiny.
yeah,
Like you saw Cream where he was going to
where
pretty
he
much
was going through the house.
go in the house.
Yeah.
That was going to be for his the last two episodes, and then you look at Perry. You mentioned how that didn't thing, how she like had to integrate more with Nina. That tree was definitely the final solution to that.
Mhm.
Where she was like outside the house because that wasn't her destiny. And so yeah, so chapter 5, the Me I'm an Engineer, really great episode. um I want to say I really like chapter 1. That would be my second favorite, the Angel of Death. I think that's another a great premiere episode for part 2 of the OA. I think that really gets you into this whole season.
Yeah.
um I love how they did a shit of Korean. I love this main storyline we're gonna follow throughout this season, with Cream, but also the OA. And this season helps you show Cream and OA, like they were the main characters we're gonna follow throughout
Mm-hmm.
the season. Think about
Yep.
it, like you saw Cream, and then you saw the OA coming into this, pretty much the last 30 minutes of this episode, and like it's a really good starter episode.
Yeah.
Um, any worst episodes you don't like in this part too?
Uh, Probably whichever was the episode with um so I have to say I'm not sure because I know there were scenes like as I mentioned the scene with the church and the scene with
Mm,
the like the TV flashing, but I don't think that like as a whole I don't think there were any episodes that I disliked. It was more just
no,
certain scenes, I would say.
yeah. Um, that the church thing, everything that's in chapter 3, Magic Mirror.
So maybe that
Yeah.
one, but again overall I would say it was more so scenes than episodes. How about you?
Um, I would say, um, yeah, I think chapter 3 is my least favorite of these other episodes. Um, it was great to see the characters back. It was just like, just you know, I, I think it was just the middle part where everyone like trying to get a fossil be part of it, and then the church thing. I was like kind of cool, but then my fossil to his date, it was like, oh, okay, and then it was just that, and then and then the contrived way of him telling the guys to go to the ant thing was just like, oh wow. So yeah, probably the weakest one because it had to juggle so many things. Like first reintroduce the Crest group, right,
Mm-hmm.
and then try to set up their journey that correlates the main storyline, the A plot. This
Right.
like there was like just the B plot,
Right.
and so it had to juggle a lot, and so I will say it's the weakest, but it's not the worst. Um,
Yeah, I would agree with that.
yeah, so I will say chapter 2 is not one that I say I I don't like chapter because like in chapter 2 there's an island I mentioned. That's probably my second least favorite is the second episode because it's of course Hep being controlled and then Perry being stuck in that treasure island. I was like, no, and I was happy that at least uh what was it I was trying to figure out. If she gets out from this, this is the
Where is it? Where Kareem comes in? Does that happen at the end of that episode?
yeah. Oh no, that's in chapter 4. That's when Crane gets Perry out. So
Got
right. So no, chapter 2 least favorite, uh, but it's still a good episode.
But that was where she does reunite with the others,
Yes,
like with Rachel and
Rachel
whatnot
and
and Scott.
Scott.
So that was an interesting part. think of
Yeah.
that.
It was very cool. I mean, it was great to see all of them back together.
Yeah.
I was sad Rachel died. And, it's like, I was sad for her not to have her voice.
No.
Yeah. Okay, let's kind of just wrap up and let's do some conclusions. I guess, like, I mean, do you want to discuss about the cancellation? Like, yeah, you had any theories why it canceled?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's one of those shows that has a extremely strong cult following, but it's not, as I've mentioned many times, it's not a show that is for everyone. And I know that Netflix tends to cancel things after the second season,
Yes.
unless it is like a complete across the board hit show. So it's not all that surprising, though it is sad. And I think other studios would pick it up if Netflix would allow that to happen. But yeah, I guess that's mainly
Yeah.
what I have to say about it. I mean, I know there was a lot of outrage about the cancellation, and a lot of um, people tried to call Netflix, and a lot of people boycotted or kind
I
of
remember that.
stopped, canceled their membership. Um, there was a lot of like a hashtag kind of going around. So it was definitely sad for a lot of people who I think, again, even though it was a show, not everyone wasn't for everyone, but I think the people that liked it really liked it. And I think it kind of brought hope to some people. So it's very sad for that group.
Yeah. I think season two was much more mainstream. I
Yeah,
think more people saw more of it. I think because I think because the thing is, part two is almost like 3 years apart from the first season. That's the thing
mm-hmm.
that's like weird. The part one came out in 2016, part two came out in 2019, and I was like, wow, that's a long period. But then that helped bring more fans to notice the show. So
True.
yeah, I was very sad they canceled. I felt like this season, the reason I think season two is better than season one is I think season two like show the potential of the show more than season
Yeah.
one, and it brought more action, but like it brought more of like the thing I like about season one, and show you, the carefully orchestra, payoffs and setups for seasons that a lot of seasons don't do. It's always like they forget about it, but here the OA does it so well of just setting up, but then pay off well to next season. And I was just sad they this one because they had great ideas. Like you look at this season. This season is completely different from first season. First season was like a small, like you mentioned for a slow pace, character driven season that was in this rap genre of sci-fi slash fantasy, and then this season was like a mystery thriller sci-fi fantasy that was plot driven and like it did it well, and
Mm-hmm.
we were discussing the stuff that we're saying for third season, supposedly, third season of like a meta, maybe like a meta commentary or something like that of the real world. We don't know. I'm just speculating because the way they show how they were towards the end of the episode, chapter 8, about being the actor's body and stuff like that. Like that could have been interesting, meta commentary like a Truman Show, or
Yeah.
why not? And so yeah, and yeah, I mean, yeah, it didn't like I yeah, it didn't got the attention like war seasons. That's the thing. Like Stranger Things gets a couple of Emmys and Golden Globes. It's, like that's how the show continue being alive in networks. If you don't pick those up, then you're already in danger of cancellation. And so obviously the show just didn't
Yeah.
get enough awards. Yeah.
Yeah, which is a shame.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, sadly. Yeah. Anything else we have to bring up? That we cover everything. I think in OA part two.
I think so. I think I feel satisfied.
Yeah, for now.
Yes,
For
for
now.
now.
For now. And when we get to
I mean, I won't really be satisfied unless they come out with another season, but in terms of
yeah,
discussion, I think we covered most of it.
yeah. We got. Oh, I, before we like close out, we have to
Yeah.
mention resume character. The FBI agent, Ellis, Remy, the FBI trauma
Mm-hmm.
counselor. He does
Yep.
come back for one episode.
True.
So let's just kind of quickly
Yeah,
discuss
I like
that.
that way they kind of make it clear what side he's on because you're not really sure in the first season, especially at the
Yeah.
end. It seems like he could be sinister, so it was
Yes.
nice that that was cleared up a little bit.
hmm Yeah, and especially towards the episode. Now I need to remember. Chapter 6, Mirror Mirror, when we're going to enter into close credits, the lights outside of the motel flickers like you're like traveling to the dimension a little bit. It
Yeah.
shows that he was one of the dimensional travelers, so he knows that. So he was one of those dimensional travelers, just like I guess like Aaliyah was for the other dimension. So like he's similar to her. He's explained these to them as well, of the techniques and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But more of like sending into the right direction, where she's more of like bringing raw ideas to them. You know. So yeah, and he could have had maybe a bigger role in part three, but
True.
I don't know. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I okay. What else? Well, we got everyone right. I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Uh, Thank you, Becca, for joining me for
Yeah. Of
this.
course. Thank you for having me.
Yes, yeah. As we mentioned before, folks, this is the TV series talk of the OA. Becca, I don't know, you're still doing like a top 10 list for every episodes or characters if you're willing to do that.
Yeah.
Um,
Definitely.
okay, so we'll probably do that. Probably go around our top 10 favorite characters of the series and discuss them in detail more of what we like about them, what they like offer the show, what they bring into the show's themes, and so hopefully we do that. And then probably our last theme about the way will be episodes, our favorite top 10 episodes, and maybe we'll talk about worst episodes, I guess, but we'll discuss that now. But for now, hopefully you guys enjoyed part two of the OA. This is me, Andres Diaz.
And Rebecca, Muslim, nice to talk with you, and thanks again for having me. And everyone have a great day.
Yep.
You're welcome.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You too, guys. Thank you so much. This, as always, subscribe and like the channel.